Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some interesting Raiders free agency rumors that I wanted to be able to discuss. I talked about it a little bit late last night on my live show when the Raiders went out and they signed Eric Stokes, and I wanted to sit back and think, why are the Raiders being so conservative? And why are the Raiders only really signing players on the defensive side of the football? I have a theory. I wanted to be able to explain it to y'all today before all the craziness probably ends up going down. For those that do not know, Jeremy Chugs and I, we will be live later on today at noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. The new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern time today, and we're planning on being live for majority of today. Yet again, 7-8 hours. You'll probably see us. We've already been live for probably close to 16, 19, I don't even know, hours over the past 2 days. I also, though, want to talk about some Raiders draft news that happened yesterday, and I also talked about this a little bit on the show late last night, but I understand that people might have missed the fact that the Raiders got 2 comp picks, but I also think that there's a lot of confusion around those comp picks that I wanted to be able to talk about this morning that might have been missed and that I probably would have talked about last night if it wasn't for the breaking news around Eric Stokes. So first off, this is what I want to know from people because I want to test something out. If you think that the Raiders are playing it safe in NFL free agency, I want you to type the word safe down below. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look 24 hours from now, and I just want to see, because it's one of the things that I like to do, because I know that I'm not afraid to get up here and give a take. And one of the things that I love about the Raiders board is I love when an audience member also has the cojones to go down in the comments section and give a take. Like, tell me what your opinion is. That's how this show is going to continuously grow. So if you think that the Raiders are playing it safe, I want you to type safe down below. And coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you why I think that they're playing safe and why I'm even a little bit more excited about the Geno Smith trade if you think that the Raiders are playing it safe. Before I get into all of that juicy free agency rumors and my theory on that, the NFL news that dropped late last night or yesterday was that NFL teams are getting comp picks. The Raiders, they get 2 comp picks. The confusion is this. The comp picks were already like a 99% chance that it was going to be 2 6-round picks. If you would have saw any of my mock drafts, any of the draft content that I talked about, I already talked about the Raiders having 3 6-round picks, 2 of which was projected at 212 and 214. Any, mock draft site, any place like that, it was because I would explain it as, imagine when, I don't know, some news is going to happen today, right? And I go, well, now it's officially official because it's the new league year. That's kind of what the comp picks are like. Like, I wouldn't stand up there on the show today and make a whole brand new video on Geno Smith and go, the Raiders traded for Geno Smith, it's officially official. That's how you should look at these comp picks. Like, we still only have 9 picks because it was the expected picks that we were going to have. So right now, as it stands, the Las Vegas Raiders have 9 overall picks. You got your first round pick at 6, 37, 68, 107, I believe then it is 144, 182, 213, 215, and then 224. So, like, a lot of the picks basically stayed the same. The only ones that really switched it up were those comp picks near the end of the video. So I wanted to be able to explain that to all of y'all. I wanted you to be able to understand what exactly the comp picks were looking like. So it was actually, 6, 37, 68, 108, 143, 180, 213, 215, and 222. So still 3 6-round picks. Just wanted to be able to clarify that. Again, y'all, that's why I want you to hit the subscribe button, because I know even when craziness happens, nobody's going to party like we do on the Raiders Report. But I also want to be able to get up here bright and early this morning and explain a few things that are rattling around in my mind before some of the crazy might end up going down. But don't get me wrong, man. I love when it gets a little bit crazy, especially around NFL free agency. So I should also mention this. You could see the Raiders even get maybe, and I mean maybe, some extra comp picks for next year as well, and it would be something that I would look at. Right now, the Raiders are projected to get an extra 4th and an extra 5th round pick in 2026, and if you're wondering, well, why would that be? Sometimes one of the benefits for all the Raider fans out there that are freaking out about losing out on Robert Spillane, losing out on all these, Nate Hobbs and Trevon Merrick, you can get comp picks for them. And we're going to get comp picks. Like, we could get a 4th or a 5th round pick because, we did not bring those guys back. So just something to think about, and we could potentially even get more comp picks to that. So if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. And I want to be able to go through a theory here. And usually when I do styles like videos like this, we consider these like, a little bit more laid back videos where I can sit down and, go through all these different ideas that are going on in my head. But I want to start here with this. The Raiders, let's be honest, are playing it safe, but I also think that they're playing it smart. And maybe it's just uncommon for Raider fans to see how smart organizations operate. But what the Raiders are doing right now is they are operating like a smart organization. And one of the things that I've been saying over and over as an analogy is like, when I think about when I go to Target with my fiance Alex is like NFL free agency, right? You want to go in there, and if you want to spend the way that the New England Patriots are spending, I'll tell you what right now, she could be blowing money left and right. But when I walk in there, I go, we got needs and we got wants. I want to first spend some money on our needs. And that's exactly what the Raiders did. They spent a lot of money on that defensive line. Then they've been trying to replace a lot of those players on the defensive line with some good players overall. So I'm going to talk about the moves that I want you to look at and be saying, all right, hear me out, Mitch. Think about it. The first move that I think was noteworthy was Isaiah Paul-Mao. But also think about if you would have known the Raiders, like we didn't know exactly maybe what some of the numbers that Trevon, Merrick, Nate Hobbs, some of these guys were hearing. But if you're out there hearing that Merrick's going to get 3 for 51 or Nate Hobbs is going to get 4 for 48, you're going to wish those guys the best of luck. But for the Raiders, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you to go out and pay those guys. So what do? You first off, you re-sign Isaiah Paul-Mao to 2 for 8. I'm not sitting up here saying Paul-Mao is better than those two players, but what I do know is Paul-Mao can kind of be a combination of what those guys do. He can play up near the line. They used him at safety a little bit. They've used him at corner before. They've used him at strong, free. I mean, he's done a lot of different things for that versatility. So you look at that and you go, all right, can he help just soften that blow a little bit? The only move that they've done on offense is Alex Cappa, which I'm going to talk about that here in a moment. Let's skip ahead then to the next move that they did. They re-signed Adam Butler. Also, the few days before that, they gave Max Crosby a contract extension. But think about what the importance of Adam Butler is. 3 years, $16 million. He was one of the most underappreciated players on that Raiders defense last season. But what he does is he makes everybody else around him better. If you're the Raiders, you got to make sure that that money you just paid Crosby works out. You got to make sure that Christian Wilkins deal works out. Got to make sure that the number 7 overall pick in Tyree Wilson works out. And you also got to make sure that the guy you just gave a 1-year prove-a deal, Malcolm Koonce, ends up working out. He also is going to be able to just help in the run game and being able to get after the quarterback. Jeremy Chinn had 117 tackles last season, is known for being a box thumper safety, somebody who's got a very comparable, maybe not athletically like Cam Chancellor, but he's got a build like Cam Chancellor. And if you're like, all right, shit, we lost out on Robert Spillane, who is no doubt our best middle linebacker, best run stopper in the middle. But then you go out there and you get yourself a Jeremy Chinn, and you pair that with Elandon Roberts, and Elandon Roberts had the second highest PFF grade in the NFL last season at 90.4. Also, Elandon Roberts won 2 Super Bowls with Tom Brady. He also has a lot of connections with Rob Leonard, the Raiders defensive line coach, but also the run game coordinator. So if you believe in Rob Leonard, I believe that one of their ideas is to use a Jeremy Chinn and to use Elandon Roberts to help replace Robert Spillane. Okay, so now you're figuring out ways that we didn't bring back the big name guy, but how can we use a bunch of different players here to build good depth and try to get a similar result out of it? So then obviously you brought back Malcolm Koonce, 1-year prove-it deal, love it. And for everyone getting mad about it, Malcolm Koonce, Adam Butler are going to make more of an impact on the Raiders, especially at their contracts, than losing out on Hobbs, Merrick, and Robert Spillane. And I have the utmost respect for those 3 players, and I wanted the Raiders to figure out ways to bring them back, but not at that price tag, right? Like, again, if you go to Target and you're shopping for needs and you need a gallon of milk and that milk's $20, respectfully, I'm not buying that milk. I'm going to say, looks like we're going to go out and we're going to get some almond milk, which probably may be more expensive. But you see what I'm saying? Like, the Raiders knew that's what they needed. But because of the price tag, we're not going to get milk today, Alex. I'm sorry. The next thing that the Raiders did, Lonnie Johnson Jr., safety. This is a special teams guy, but he's also a little bit of a bigger outside safety, corner. Got a relationship, though, with Marcus Robinson and Joe Woods, 2 people who are very important on our secondary, one of which is obviously our DB coach. But when you look at Lonnie Johnson Jr., one of his better years before, I would say his better year in the last 3 was back in 2023 with the New Orleans Saints. Having guys on special teams is really important, but then also having a dude that's a pretty big guy, not afraid to be physical, I don't think that that's a bad idea to have either. I don't expect that we see Lonnie Johnson Jr. on the field, at least. I don't want to say I hope not, but I kind of hope not because I think that means a lot of bad things happen, but, who knows? Maybe he turns out to be a better player at 29 years old. But then look at the move yesterday. Eric Stokes, outside corner, former first-round pick, 29 overall, out of Georgia. Super athletic guy, 6 foot, like basically 195, 200 pounds. But he's built and he has upside. He just got to be able to stay healthy. Though he stayed healthy last season where he was able to play all 17 games. But the way that, I would talk about K'Lavon Chaisson last season was all around the idea of him being a lot better of a player than what people realized, and he was a good athlete. But I trusted this regime because I trusted Rob Leonard. And I want people to trust Eric Stokes because you should have that exact same mindset with our DB coaches, but also somebody like Pete Carroll who's always been able to develop talent at a really, really high level. So coming up here, I'm going to tell you why I think that the Raiders could be aggressive today on offense. And maybe they're going to be aggressive overall today because everything that I just talked about there, defense, and they've been doing a lot of defense. And I've been getting a lot of questions. Man, when are we going to do anything on offense? Mitch, I thought we traded for Geno Smith. Well, I think that's where we got to talk about next. So coming up, why the Raiders could be aggressive today. So you got to look at the signings on defense compared to the signings on offense. I mean, it is all on the defensive side of the football. And I sat there and I was like, I wonder why. And again, I'm just shooting my shot here. That's what I like to do on this show. But I wondered, all right, well, the only move that they made was on offense was Alex Cappa. 2 years, $11 million. It's essentially a 1 year, $5.5 million deal because it's guaranteed they can move on from him the following year. But if you were trying to build a culture, you're trying to build chemistry, you're just trying to build somebody that you know that you can get in the locker room, that you can trust right away no matter what, maybe that's the reason why you go out and get him. I hope that he's not our starting right guard. I hope he is the sixth man on our offensive line. I worry that we're going to run into another, let's call it Cody Whitehair situation, which I don't really want to be able to do, obviously, but I still would like to be able to upgrade that line. So hear me out here. Because the Raiders seem to be taking their time and playing it safe, I wonder if they're ready to make some more moves today because a lot of things become officially official today, right? Where I thought it was interesting that as soon as we got comp pick information out yesterday, the Raiders went out and did something. And I wonder if a lot of NFL teams are also going to do that because they were wondering, all right, are those comp picks going to be officially official? Am I going to be able to use one of those comp picks that I didn't know if I was going to have 100% to maybe make a trade? Like maybe one of those teams that got a comp pick yesterday goes out and they try to make a trade for an Andre James type of player, right? Like we've seen things like this happen, and all that can happen leading up until 4 p.m. Eastern time. But at 4 p.m. Eastern time, Andre James is cut. Gardner Minshew's cut. You're going to get that money from both of those players, and you're going to get some extra money. I also think that you could potentially see Geno Smith get his contract today because Geno Smith's trade becomes officially official today. Like, I know that it's usually uncommon when we get breaking news, especially around this time of the year, that, all right, Raiders are trading for Geno Smith. It's a third-round pick. People think instantly Geno's on the roster. Technically, right now, Geno's not on our team. And Geno is as much on our team right now as what Cliff Kingsbury was as an OC for the Raiders. And I expect Geno to be on this team. And I know what happened with the Raiders and the Cliff Kingsbury situation is a crazy, crazy situation. But if you were an organization that just got burned because you thought that you were going to be able to go out and get an OC or, you were be able to build an offense in a certain way, and then in a snap of a finger, everything changed. And that's what happened to the Raiders last season. If you're the Raiders right now, you're doing everything which they've been, playing it safe, playing it smart, making sure that they're allocating their money in a correct way, because I think that they're preparing to do something big today. And maybe the big move today is they're going to give Geno Smith a long contract extension. But what you don't want to do if you're the Raiders, and because that would really, really screw you, imagine a world where you trade for Geno Smith on Friday, and you're spending all this money Monday, Tuesday in free agency. You're looking at agents, you're talking to players, you're guaranteeing them all this long-term contracts, money, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? And then for whatever reason, the Geno Smith trade falls through. And now you're stuck with a bunch of players that you're building around a certain quarterback, and now you don't even know if you're going to have that quarterback on your team. That's obviously worst-case scenario, but in my mind, the Raiders have been playing it safe. They have been well methodical. They have been making very smart, thought-out decisions. And I wonder if that's been one of their decisions where they go, you know what, we're not going to add anybody on offense until this trade becomes officially official and until we know how much money we're going to be paying Geno Smith on a per-year deal after the contract. I'll tell you this right now. I think the Geno Smith deal, they're probably going to give him a 3-year extension on top of that 1-year contract. If I had to guess based off of just what's going on in my head here, I'm going to go probably it's a 3-year deal for $120 million with $80 million of that guaranteed. And it's probably going to be structured in some way of no doubt Geno Smith's going to be your quarterback for 2 years. That third year, we'll consider it. And then if he's good in that third year and you want to give him that 4th year option, you're going to tie it to Pete Carroll because he also has 3 years with the potential to have a fourth-year option. That's the way that I envision that the Raiders are going to structure this Geno Smith contract. My plan, and I think the Raiders' plan, is that Geno's going to be this team's quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years. So if you're a Raiders fan, you don't like that, I would recommend you check out my video on tape, which I break down a lot of stuff around Geno, and I think everybody after watching that, again, hopefully you feel a lot better about it because he's no doubt a top 15 quarterback, and I think with this regime, he can be a top 10 quarterback, which is why, well, all right, I'll get to it in a point. I'll get to it in a moment, okay? So imagine this. Imagine the Raiders again. They make all these moves. You don't have a quarterback. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm looking at this situation, okay? These are the players that I would look at for Las Vegas today if I was in the room with Spytek, Pete Carroll, all those guys that I always talk about. But if I was in the room with those dudes today and I was able to get the Geno Smith contract done today, I would look at Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Stefon Diggs from a wide receiver standpoint. Keenan Allen's got Chris Beatty ties, Raiders wide receiver coach. Tyler Lockett's got really good connection with Geno Smith, and you need an extra deep threat that has that type of connection because it's extremely important with somebody like Geno. Stefon Diggs, maybe you look at somebody also like a Brandon Cooks who's got ties to Tom Brady. On the offensive line, I'm going to throw out 4 names. If you're looking for another right guard, I want Mekhi Becton. I think he would be the guy that I would go out and look at. If you want to take a little bit of a gamble, which this would not fit what the Raiders have been doing, Tevin Jenkins. And Tevin Jenkins is a really, really talented guard player. I actually talked about him a lot a few years ago. I wanted the Raiders to draft him, but he's had so many injuries, and I mean so many injuries. So knowing that, maybe that might not be the option. Or maybe you take a risk on somebody like that because it could be a 1-year prove-it deal, and if he's able to stay healthy, he's going to be a hell of a player. And then also, you got a guy like Alex Cappa. You got a guy like Jordan Meredith. You have some backup. Dylan Parham. Like you have offensive linemen that you believe in just in case somebody like that goes down. You go with somebody like Kevin Zeitler, and he's old, he's 34, 35 years old, but he's still playing at a pretty damn high level, quite frankly. Still one of the better offensive guards in the NFL, but that could be another cheap prove-it deal where, remember how much better Greg Van Roten was than we all thought? Greg Van Roten 2 years ago was the 7th best offensive guard according to PFF out of them all. I think if you brought in Zeitler, who's older, he would be a good fit with this offensive line. He was great for the Detroit Lions last season. It's just people are afraid of him because he's 34, 35 years old. I also wonder about a Kelvin Beachum if you want to upgrade your right tackle spot. It's just, again, we're looking at, that's more of a depth piece. Though, I'll tell you this, I might start Kelvin Beachum over DJ Glaze in year 1, and then we'll see what we have. Now, it could also be just a good way to add a little bit of extra competition in there. The tight end that I'll consider is Harrison Bryant just because he's known the team, but if you're not planning on moving on from Michael Mayer, then there's no really need to go out and get a Harrison Bryant. You could probably just draft a tight end if you really, really wanted one. So the point of me making this video was I do expect the Raiders to be a little bit more aggressive today once the Geno Smith becomes officially official. My final thought here, and this is how I'm going to leave this show, because I hope people after this, with this final thought are, and this is out to maybe the Geno haters, maybe you're a little bit more confident about Geno after what I'm going to say. So imagine, a Raiders organization that I'm going to imagine a lot of people are going to type safe down below, which I asked you to do in the beginning. And the Raiders have been playing it safe. They've been playing it smart. They've been playing it methodical. I'd say the only move that they did that was, surprising. It was a ballsy move. It was them being aggressive. And when they see something, I do think that this is a team that has shown you this offseason that when they want something, they're at least going to try to go out there and they're going to try to go get it. So imagine how confident this regime was, from Pete Carroll to John Spytek to Tom Brady to Chip Kelly to Greg Olsen. I think that is honestly one of the best football offensive-minded groups of people that have succeeded with quarterbacks in this current stage of the NFL. You could stack that 5 people that I just mentioned right there, you could stack those 5 up against a lot of other NFL teams, and you'd go, the Raiders got a legit group, and they are doing things the right way. So imagine how confident they had to be to go trade a 3rd-round pick for Geno Smith, where everything that they're doing this entire offseason, they're playing it safe. And I like a lot of the moves that they're doing. I think the Raiders, honestly, are crushing free agency. But imagine how confident they had to be to go out and get Geno Smith. And for all the Geno, again, doubters out there, I want you to go watch Geno Smith tape, because if you do, you're going to see a lot better quarterback than stats indicate. And that's why I'm super more fired up. I don't even know if that's super more fired up. I think the only time that's ever been said is maybe by a 7th grade cheerleader before she's getting ready to do her thing. But, like, think about it. Like, that's how I feel. I feel Geno Smith's got me feeling like a 7th grade cheerleader because I want the Raiders to be so damn good this year that I didn't know if it would be possible with Geno. I legit think that the Raiders can win 10 games. I really do. They won 10 games last year in Seattle, and that Seattle team might be worse than this Raiders team. And people are, they have Jackson Smith, Jigba, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. They also had a horrific offensive line. And then my favorite stat is 38.4% pressure rate against Geno last season on the interior. See, it's literally, Mahomes faced a 38% pressure rate in the Super Bowl. Think about the way Mahomes looked, 38% pressure rate. Think about what Geno Smith did last season. Even for the Geno Smith haters out there. When you give him time, he's going to really, I'm telling you, surprise a lot of people. So I'm going to put a video down in the comments, and I really want Raider fans to check it out. It's the longest video that I've ever made. It's a 45-minute, palooza of breakdown of Geno Smith film and why I think y'all are going to like him a lot more. He's got a lot of numbers that prove, and I mean prove, that not only, like, his numbers in that video prove that he is no doubt top 13 quarterback. There's also a lot of stats in there that prove that he's top 10. And I don't think that he's top 10 because I want to see it to believe it. But if you're somebody that likes film, and if you're somebody that I think is a film guru or a film junkie, however you want, film head, however you want to say it, and then you look at a lot of his, we'll call them advanced metrics, advanced stats, advanced analytics, there's a lot of people around the NFL, guys who are very, very well respected, that think he's a top 10 quarterback. And I think our quarterback room with our coaching staff and regime is a very, very smart room. So here's how I'm going to end you on this, okay? When the Raiders want something, I do think that they try to go out and get it. And I know that might be a hard thing for people to be able to wrap their minds around right now because, we lost Ben Johnson. But think about the coaching staff and regime that we were able to build. And again, I was somebody that wanted Ben Johnson. If you would have told me that we would have been able to go out and get Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, keep Patrick Graham and just build everything that we did from Greg Olsen, a quarterback coach, I actually wonder if I would have just taken the Chip Kelly route instead of the Ben Johnson route, quite frankly, and that might be hard for people to believe out there. But when the Raiders want something, they've shown you that they're willing to go get it. They gave Chip Kelly a raise. Ohio State was paying him $2 million. The Raiders made Chip Kelly the highest paid offensive coordinator in the National Football League, $6 million. They gave Patrick Graham a raise. Why? They saw it, they wanted it, they went out and got it. Geno Smith, they saw it, they wanted it, they went out and got it. I think if the Raiders see something today, after the trade becomes officially official, they're going to go out there, they're going to see it, they're going to want it, and they're going to try to go get it. And I think that today is going to be a really, really fun day, and I hope a lot of people end up tuning in and pulling up to the Raiders report because even though they haven't really done anything on offense, I think it's because they're waiting for the Geno Smith trade to become officially official. Hopefully you guys like this video. I've been thinking about it literally like yesterday when I got off live. I was thinking about it, and I was writing down a bunch of notes of why the Raiders weren't doing certain things, but I was also getting a lot of questions of why the Raiders only doing stuff on defense and nothing on offense. And everything that I explained today is the reason why I think all those things. So I'm getting ready to hop off here. If you made it this far in the video, drop me a like. Give me a real one down below. That way I know you made it this far, because if you're making it this far this early after the show we had yesterday, and shit, even the show we had on Monday, shit, Sunday, Saturday, Friday at this point, you know, that means a lot to me, man. So please show me some love. Give me a real one down below. All right, y'all, I'm hopping off. Reminder, noon Eastern time. Unless the Raiders do something from now until then, I'll see y'all noon Eastern time here on the Raiders Report. For more videos just like this one, you can click that subscribe button right here. If you're looking for more videos that we typically do here at the studio, a lot more graphics. I got my man Chugs, getting your questions up on screen. You could probably check out one of those videos here. This one might be the Geno Smith breakdown. If it's not, again, friendly reminder that video is going to be down in the comments and down in the description of today's show.